The day my family tried to steal my house from me started like any other Saturday morning. I was brewing coffee in my kitchen, looking out at my backyard where my old camper sat, a reminder of darker days, when I heard the knock. Not a polite knock, the kind that rattles windows and demands immediate attention. I opened the door to find my parents, my brother Marcus, and his wife Stephanie standing there like an invasion force. No call, no text. They'd found my address somehow, despite my careful efforts to keep it from them. My mother pushed past me before I could speak. "This place is perfect," she announced, surveying my living room like a realtor. "Marcus needs it more than you do." That single sentence encapsulated my entire childhood. Marcus needed it more. Marcus deserved it more. Marcus was worth more. Growing up, I'd learned that lesson through 1,000 paper cuts of favoritism. When he broke my PlayStation at 13, I was told to share better. When he flirted with my high school girlfriend until she dumped me for him, my parents said I should be happy for him finding love. When he got a car for his 16th birthday and I got a lecture about earning my own way, the message was clear. There were two classes of children in our family, and I wasn't in the privileged one. I'd escaped at 18, thinking distance would protect me. I was wrong. "You need to leave," I said, my voice steadier than my hands. "This is my house." Stephanie, my brother's wife, had mastered the art of theatrical emotion. Her eyes welled with perfectly timed tears. "But we have nowhere else to go. The kids need stability." The truth was, they'd been evicted from their rental for non-payment, something I'd learned from a cousin who still talked to me. Marcus made decent money at his sales job, but Stephanie had expensive tastes and my brother had never learned the word no from our parents. "You have that camper in the back," Marcus said, pointing through my window. "You could live in that again. You did it before." The casual cruelty of that statement hit me like a physical blow. Yes, I'd lived in that camper for 8 months during the pandemic. After losing my job and my roommate within weeks of each other, I'd sold everything I owned except the essentials, bought a used camper for $3,000, and mounted it on my truck. Those months were a masterclass in survival. I learned which Walmart parking lots had security that looked the other way, which fast food restaurants had outdoor outlets I could access after dark, how to shower at truck stops, and how to make a week's worth of food last 10 days. I'd sleep with one eye open, ready to move if someone knocked on the camper door. Police, security guards, other homeless people, everyone was a potential threat. Winter was the worst. Even with a small propane heater, the cold seeped through the thin walls. I'd wear every piece of clothing I owned to bed and still wake up with numb fingers. The warehouse job saved me. The owner, an older man named Frank who'd been homeless himself once, let me park in the back lot in exchange for extra security checks and odd maintenance jobs. I worked every overtime shift offered, saved every penny I could, and after 18 months I had enough for a down payment on this manufactured home. It wasn't fancy. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 400 square feet. But it was mine. The first night I slept here, in a real bed, in a room that didn't move when the wind blew, I cried. And now my family wanted to take it. "The camper isn't livable long term," I said, "and this is my house. I worked for it. I paid for it. You're not taking it." My father, who'd been silent until then, used his disappointed voice, the one that used to make me feel 2 inches tall. "We're family. Family helps each other. When did you ever help me?" The question escaped before I could stop it. "When I was homeless, where were you? When I was showering at truck stops and stealing Wi-Fi to apply for jobs, where was this family help?" "You never asked," my mother said. That was a lie. I'd called them once early in my camper days, desperate enough to swallow my pride. My mother had told me it would build character. Marcus had laughed in the background. "Get out of my house." That's when Stephanie escalated. Her tears turned to screams. "You selfish bastard! You'd let children suffer because of your grudges?" She swung at me. Not a slap, a closed fist punch that caught me in the chest. I stumbled back, more shocked than hurt. That's when I remembered the security system I'd installed the week before. A network of cameras covering every angle of the house. Everything was being recorded. Marcus grabbed my shoulders. "Just sign the house over. We'll work out payments later." "Payments?" I laughed, bitter and disbelieving. Like the payments for the Xbox you borrowed and sold? Or the payments for the emergency loan when you crashed your first car? My father produced a document from his jacket. We prepared a rental agreement, just sign it, and we'll handle everything. The paper was laughable, a clearly fabricated lease agreement with my signature already forged at the bottom, dated 3 weeks ago, giving Marcus full tenant rights for $1 a month. You forged my signature? It's not forgery if it's family, my mother said, as if that made any sense. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. Stephanie tried to grab it, screaming that I was tearing the family apart. Marcus held her back, but his expression promised retribution. While we waited for police, they tried every manipulation in their playbook. Tears, guilt, threats of family exile, promises of future payment, even a bizarre attempt by my mother to ground me, as if I were still a child under her roof. The officers who arrived were professional and thorough. They reviewed the security footage on my phone, examined the forged lease, took statements from everyone. Stephanie made the mistake of lying, claiming I'd invited them and then attacked her. The video evidence showed otherwise. "Ma'am, that's assault," one officer told her. "And this," he held up the fake lease, "is attempted fraud. Would you like to press charges?" he asked me. I looked at my nephew and niece in the back of Marcus's truck, watching everything unfold. "Not today, but I want them trespassed from the property." The officers made them gather their things. They'd actually brought suitcases, so confident in their scheme, and formally trespassed them. If they returned, it would be criminal trespassing. After they left, I sat in my empty house and made a decision. I posted the security videos online, along with a detailed account of what happened. Not out of revenge, but because I knew my family's pattern. They'd spin the story, make me the villain who turned away desperate family members. I needed the truth out there first. The response was immediate and unexpected. Relatives I hadn't heard from in years reached out. Turns out, I wasn't the only one who'd suffered from my parents' favoritism and Marcus's entitlement. Cousins shared their own stories of loans never repaid, family events ruined by Marcus's behavior, times my parents had enabled his worst impulses. An aunt I barely knew called to tell me she was proud of me for standing up to them. 3 days later, they returned. I was at work when my security app alerted me. The cameras showed them in my backyard, Marcus working on the locks while Stephanie kept watch. My parents were nowhere to be seen, but their car was parked down the street. I called the police immediately and raced home. By the time I arrived, they'd drilled out my deadbolt and were moving boxes inside. The same officers from before were there, this time with less patience. "We have a lease," Stephanie screamed, waving the forged document. "Ma'am, we've already established that's fraudulent," the officer said. "And now you've destroyed property and committed breaking and entering. You're under arrest." The sight of Stephanie in handcuffs, Marcus scrambling to explain, my parents suddenly appearing to plead their case, it should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt hollow. This was my family, and it had come to this. I pressed charges this time. Stephanie for assault and breaking and entering, Marcus as an accomplice to the B&E, my parents for conspiracy to commit fraud. The court dates were set, restraining orders issued. The family explosion was swift and brutal. My parents tried to rally the extended family to their side, but the video evidence was damning. The forged lease, the assault, the break-in, it was all there in undeniable clarity. Relatives who'd stayed neutral for years finally picked sides, and surprisingly, many picked mine. I decided to host Christmas that year, not to gloat, but to thank the family members who'd supported me. Cousins, aunts, uncles, and their kids filled my small house with warmth it had never known. We cooked together, laughed at old stories, created new memories. It was the family gathering I'd always wanted but never had. Of course, they showed up. My parents, Marcus and Stephanie, walked in without knocking, as if the restraining orders didn't exist. The room went silent. My cousin James, a mountain of a man who worked construction, stood up first. "You need to leave," he said simply. "This is a family gathering," my father said, using his authoritative voice. "Yes," my Aunt Margaret said, standing beside James, "and you're not welcome at it." One by one, every person in that room stood up. My family, the one I'd found in the ruins of the old one, formed a wall between me and them. No violence, no screaming, just quiet solidarity. Stephanie started to cry. Real tears this time. Marcus's face cycled through confusion, anger, and something that might have been shame. My parents looked around the room, full of relatives, choosing me over them. And for the first time in my life, they had nothing to say. They left. The party continued. We never spoke of it again that night, but something fundamental had shifted. I had a family now, just not the one I'd started with. The court cases proceeded over the following months. Stephanie pled guilty to misdemeanor assault and criminal mischief, receiving probation and mandatory anger management. Marcus got community service for the B&E. My parents' fraud charges were dropped in exchange for a plea deal that included a permanent restraining order and financial restitution for the damaged door. But the real drama was yet to come. 6 months after Christmas, Marcus called me, not to threaten or manipulate, but broken. Stephanie had been having an affair. Their youngest son, the one she'd used as emotional ammunition during the house incident, wasn't his. The DNA test was conclusive. I met him at a bar. Not the brother who'd tormented me, but a destroyed man nursing whiskey and facing the collapse of everything he thought he knew. We talked until the bar closed, then sat in his truck until sunrise. He told me things I'd never known. How our parents' favoritism had poisoned him too, in different ways. How he'd never learned consequences because they'd always cushioned his falls. How Stephanie had played into that dynamic, using our parents' enabling to manipulate him too. I was an asshole to you, he said as the sun came up. I can't undo that, but I need to be better for my kids, the ones that are actually mine. The divorce was brutal. Stephanie tried every trick, but the evidence of her affair was overwhelming. She got minimal custody, no alimony, and had to pay child support. Marcus got the kids and nothing else. Their house was in her name, a manipulation tactic she'd used early in their marriage. He and his 2 biological children were essentially homeless. I stared at that camper in my backyard for 3 days before making the decision. The same camper that had been my shelter during the darkest period of my life. I could have sold it, could have let Marcus figure it out himself like I'd had to. But his kids didn't deserve to pay for their parents' mistakes. I offered him the camper with conditions, a written agreement, monthly inspections, and any damage would be prosecuted. He could park it in my backyard. The kids needed stability for school, but he had no rights to the house. 1 violation and they were gone. He accepted. Seeing Marcus's oldest son's face light up when he realized he'd have his own space, even a small one, reminded me that cycles can be broken. I installed more cameras after that. Every angle, every door, cloud storage for everything. I wasn't paranoid, just practical. I also rented out 2 spare bedrooms to friends from work, both to help with the mortgage and to ensure the house was never empty. The notifications started small. My truck egged in the night. Stephanie's car caught on a neighbor's camera, but not enough for prosecution. Nasty reviews left for my employer under fake names. Attempts to access my credit report. Each incident was documented, reported, added to the file my lawyer was building for a harassment suit. My parents started therapy after the family revolt at Christmas. They'd lost most of their social circle when the truth came out. Their counselor reached out to me, with their permission, to discuss family sessions. I declined. Some bridges once burned, light the way forward. They send letters now. Apologies that feel genuine but incomplete. They don't understand that favoritism isn't just about giving one child more. It's about teaching the other child they're worth less. That damage doesn't heal with sorry. Marcus has been sober for 8 months. He works 2 jobs, saves everything, and takes his kids to therapy. We're not brothers in any way that matters, but we coexist. His kids call me uncle, and I teach them things their father never learned. How to budget, how to cook cheap meals, how to change their own oil. I'm breaking the cycle in my own way. Stephanie violated the restraining order last month. She showed up drunk, screaming about her ruined life, throwing rocks at my windows. The cameras caught everything. She's in jail now, awaiting trial. Marcus didn't bail her out. I still have the house. The mortgage payment is manageable with roommates, and I'm building equity with every payment. The foundation is solid, the roof doesn't leak, And the doors lock. Locks I'd change myself, reinforced with steel frames and deadbolts that can't be drilled out. Sometimes I stand in my backyard and look at that camper where Marcus and his kids sleep. It's strange how something that represented my lowest point became someone else's lifeline. But that's the difference between us. I see shelter where others might see shame. My refrigerator is covered with drawings from my nephews, crayon pictures of houses and families, and Uncle's big truck. One shows all of us together, them in the camper, me in the house, but connected by a rainbow. Marcus saw it and went quiet. Later, I found a note under my door. Thank you for being the brother I never was. I keep that note in my safe, along with the deed to the house, the restraining orders, and the backup drives of all the security footage. Evidence of what I've survived, what I've built, what I've protected. The other day, a cousin asked me if I regretted posting that announcement about buying the house, the Facebook post that led my family to my door. I thought about it for a long time. No, I don't regret it. That post didn't cause the confrontation. It just triggered what was always going to happen. My family's entitlement, their belief that my accomplishments belonged to Marcus, that was always there. The house just made it visible. Now I own my home, free and clear of their manipulations. I have a chosen family that stood up for me when it mattered. I have boundaries enforced by law and cameras that never sleep. I have nephews who are learning that love isn't supposed to hurt and that favoritism is a poison that damages everyone it touches. Most importantly, I have the knowledge that I can survive anything. I've been homeless and housed, familyless and family full, broken and rebuilt. Each stage taught me something essential, that survival isn't just about enduring, it's about protecting what you've earned from those who believe they're entitled to it. My house stands as proof of that. Every nail, every board, every locked door is a testament to boundaries held and battles won. It's not just property, it's evidence that the least favored child can build something the golden child can never take. At night, when I lock my doors and check my cameras, I don't feel paranoid, I feel prepared. Because the truth about toxic families is that they don't just disappear when you say no. They escalate, they manipulate, they recruit others to their cause. But if you document everything, if you refuse to keep their secrets, if you're willing to involve the law when they break it, eventually they learn that you're not the easy target you used to be. I still have that first video saved, the one where Stephanie punched me and my parents tried to steal my house with a forged lease. Sometimes I watch it, not out of anger, but as a reminder. That was the day I stopped being the family scapegoat and became my own defender. The house is quiet now. My roommates are asleep. Marcus's kids are in the camper, probably on their tablets. The cameras are recording, the locks are secure, and I'm sitting in my kitchen, writing this account. Tomorrow, Marcus starts his new job, a promotion that will let him save for an apartment. My nephews will go to school. I'll go to work at the warehouse where Frank still lets people park when they need help. I'll come home to my house, check my locks, review my cameras, and sleep soundly in a bed that doesn't move when the wind blows. It's not the family story anyone dreams of, but it's mine. And unlike everything else my family tried to take, this story, like this house, belongs to me.